Today I'm going to be doing a bit of footage on the OSSC, which is a double line adapter device, kind of like an upscaler for retro video games, except it does it in a more intelligent way. And as you can see, it's a pretty neat little device. Now obviously there's many different devices. You've got your cheaper ones, which they do the job. They ain't necessarily great, they ain't necessarily the worst things. Obviously, most of my content done on Mega Drive was originally done with the Elgato HD, but that gave up. Sadly, that stopped working on me a while back, so I had to resort back to these little cheapy upscalers. They're not great, but they're not necessarily terrible. They'll do a very basic job. Obviously, the image in the picture, especially if you're composite, looks awful. But it gets the job done, especially if you're doing YouTube videos. But this device is a little bit different. For one, this is a lot more. This is £109, and obviously you've got your SCART input and you've got component, and then you've got HDMI out, and you believe you've also got DVI out as well. The only complaint I have with this is the SCART on this. It wobbles a little bit, so I'm umming on about whether to get a SCART adapter so I don't have to keep unplugging and replugging it in. But I mean, it wasn't stupidly expensive. £109 the version I got. I can't remember the company's name, but they're on Amazon.co.uk. So the games I'm going to be doing will be probably like one level of each. Games. I ain't got Master Mega Drive, but I've got a few. So Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master, Jungle Strike, very difficult game. The old Desert Strike and Jungle Strike, and I think I've even got Urban Strike as well down there as well. Obviously, a classic Sonic 2 on the Mega Drive. One I've rarely ever played, Mercs. Possibly the best racing game on the Mega Drive, Road Rash, absolutely stellar soundtrack. And the days when EA made decent games. Yes, it's been a long time since they've done that. Mostly. Rolling Thunder 2 might be one of the best shooting games on the Mega Drive. And it's got co-op as well, which is awesome. This game, I've played it once. It's interesting. It's got a bit of a cult fan base, this game, I believe, from what I've read. And it also ain't necessarily a cheap game. And of course, World of Illusion. And I believe also, if I can get the bloody thing, Castle of Illusion and Quackshot. So those are the game footage I'm going to be putting up. I will mess with the settings a little bit. But the problem with, obviously, this device is, well, not a problem, but your TV has to be compatible. So, for instance, certain resolutions, so Elgato. So Elgato is that's the capture software. But if you run OBS up here, what will happen sometimes is that Elgato will drop. It will drop the signal. But if you've got OBS running in the background, OBS 9 times out of 10 will capture the signal. It'll continue to keep capturing. Whereas Elgato capture software, it drops the signal a lot of the time. Obviously with the TV as well, some of the time that will also drop. But a lot of the time, as I said, 9 times out of 10, OBS will continue to keep capturing, whereas Elgato will just drop it and say can't get signal. Because, again, it is designed mainly for 4K and 1080p, between 1080p and 4K. And obviously the OBS device puts out things at like weird resolutions. You know, there's so many different resolutions you can put the thing out at in terms of, because obviously it upscales or double lines the image and the picture and blows the picture up, but it does it in an intelligent way where it looks decent, which would be handy for streaming, recording, etc. So that's the only thing I would say about that. It's well worth it over that if you do a lot of streaming and recording and you do a lot of content. Obviously, there are other devices. The RetroTink comes to mind, and there is a device with another device where you can have. I think it's called a transcoder or something, where you can actually have an add-on device which will take a composite, like from say like a Power N64 if you haven't got it modified, and other systems. Obviously, I've got a Mega Drive SCART lead running for that, and the GameCube I've even managed to get. I've got a SCART lead for that, ironically. SCART leads tend to be more of a UK European thing than US, but I do believe they're becoming more common over there now to some degree, from what I've read and from some of the videos I've watched. Any of the retro stuff I would recommend. My Life in Gaming being one of the particularly big and interesting videos on anything retro, literally anything. They have done so many videos on this stuff, and they are such a resource to pull from. And there are many, many others within that community, which is definitely something I'd recommend with getting one of these, or even the RetroTinks, if you can get them. The RetroTink ×2, and I believe is it ×5 was the newest one. But they're so expensive, and they're out of print as far as my understanding is, so you can't get them very easily. I saw the ×5 on eBay, and they wanted 350 quid. I'm like, I mean, this for me is a hobby, so it's a lot of money to be forking out for something that makes your games look a great deal better, retro stuff especially. But I probably will be looking to get the other device for that too, so I can run composite and stuff like that through for the N. I'd love to see what the N64 look like, doubled, and because some of the games on the N64, like Mission Impossible, for instance, looks horrible. Now, obviously, it's the graphics to some degree, and obviously they use shadows to hide the draw distances and things like that. But this device will be fantastic for GameCube, although I've already got a device for GameCube, PS2, Xbox. The only other thing I've noticed with this device is it'll like Golden Axe when I was recording that. Between levels, it must change resolution or transition to a different resolution for a couple of seconds, or it's just the Elgato, just because that was dropping the signal for like a second, and then it was coming back, usually within the space of the time between transitioning between level 1 and say the next level in Golden Axe, for instance. So that's some little quirks like that, but I'll probably do a bit of video editing to sort of change all that and make sure you don't see it drop. So, and there's scan lines on this thing as well. Obviously, it comes with a remote. You need your own batteries for it. But there's quite a bit to it, and it's well worth it if you play a lot of retro games. But you haven't got necessarily a great deal of money, a budget to fork out on these stupidly expensive pieces of equipment. You can get better. Obviously, you can mod these consoles if you've got the know-how and the sort of the expertise to mod them with soldering iron, that kind of thing, HDMI out, and all the other stuff. But I haven't got that, unfortunately. I did try on my GameCube and I nearly destroyed it. So I thought, best bet to just, until I get more experience with soldering iron, I'll leave that to the experts. Hello there, and welcome to the channel. We're looking at the OSSC today. Now, this is a device that allows you to basically double line the image of an old console. So yeah, multiplies the lines, and basically you can go 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times the original native image. But again, that is dependent on your TV whether it'll actually support 5 times. Mine doesn't, sadly. And also you will find, I'm using the Elgato 4K60. This device is not very happy at a lot of these oddball resolutions, and it won't, like I'm outputting currently on the Mega Drive running through the OSSC at 768 by 480p at 50 Hz. Obviously it's a PAL Mega Drive, so it doesn't run as fast. But basically I'm using OBS to record this, but it's quite. I'm quite surprised how bad the Elgato software is in comparison to this. So you know, it does its job, but it's not as good as Elgato. Need to get that sort of fixed, I think. But less moaning and more explaining the. So you can go like double line triple mode ×3. Yeah, and even 5. Again, it says that your display has to be compatible. As I said, this has got SCART. It's also got component in, so your more modern consoles would be quite handy for this particular device. PS2, GameCube, Xbox, which I think is quite cool. I think it's not a cheap device, but it's not really stupidly expensive. It's about £109, and it is open source. So, and there are variations of this device around. You've got the Queso one, and I had a case. Is it Queso? I had a what is it called? I had the GameCube one that you put in for a digital out, and the quality is pretty stellar. To be honest, it's been a good piece of kit. Unfortunately, my GameCube one broke for some reason, so I had to buy another one, which I bought the retro bit one in. But the fact is that these devices are quite handy to have. They're not necessarily a must-have. I've used the cheaper upscalers, and they don't do a very good job in terms of image clarity and stuff. But at the same time, they don't do a bad job in the grand scheme of things. You're not, it's not horrific to look at. It's not great, but it saves you money. The upscalers I've done before, and again, if it's Sonic, I wouldn't worry about this particular game because Sonic's been ported more times than you name it at this point. It's been ported so many times. Excuse me. But I didn't realise OBS was this versatile. I'm quite impressed actually, considering I'm just quite shocked that Elgato just doesn't like these other resolutions, which is kind of weird. The only problem with Supersonic is too damn fast.